Welcome back to the channel. The launch of the Root Marketplace, big updates to the Futureverse white paper, and the cool cats join the family. That plus a whole bunch more. This is Into the Futureverse. Now give that like button a bunnies up and let's get into it. Well, it's been a massive month of April already, even with the Easter break in the middle of it, and there's so much to cover. So let's start with the April edition of the Probably Nothing Futureverse newsletter and dive into some of the details. Right before the newsletter dropped, and the Easter break itself, Alex Smaler had this announcement in the Fluffworld Discord, stating that with non-fungible labs forming part of the Futureverse roll-up, that the entity was essentially getting dissolved, along with his position as CEO. And Alex will be moving into a new position, VP of Community for the whole Futureverse. I think this is going to be a wonderful appointment, freeing Alex up from the burden of being a CEO and allowing him to directly engage us more as community members. Having someone of such high standing within the organisation, being down in the weeds with the community can only be a positive thing. And given Alex has been there right since the beginning of Fluffworld itself, he'll have a wonderful view of everything that's being built around him and will be able to speak with authority. I had a brief chance to chat with Alex myself, and he was on a fact-finding mission within the marketing and communications department, and also with community members to gain an understanding of some of the pain points and areas of improvement, and also feedback on what they've been doing well. And along with the announcement of Alex being more community facing, dropped the updates to the Futureverse white paper. And from a token distribution standpoint, they are significant. In previous videos around the Futureverse and the white paper, I've mentioned how powerful the community treasury DAO will be, with a 25% allocation of all root tokens due to begin vesting after 50 weeks. And it's this allocation which is now significantly changed, being reduced from 25% to just 5% allocation held for a pre-sale of root tokens has also now been removed, and that extra 5% goes towards bootstrapping validators, who are now eligible for a 10% incentive of all root tokens to help further decentralize the network in its early years. The result of this is that the community rewards and land mechanics allocations are now both 20% of the entire network each. That's a significant amount to incentivize gameplay and early network participation. The finer details of this are still to be released, but I think this is a wonderful initiative. The other significant point of note is not just the fact that there's now 20% of root tokens reserved for community efforts, it's that they're also linked to social engagement outside of gameplay itself. And your contributions on social media platforms to help grow and promote the system will now be rewarded and make up part of your FutureScore. You may have noticed an uptick in social media activity just in the last week as a result of this, where people are effectively pre-mining root tokens. Your FutureScore is driven by the FuturePass technology, which you would have set up when you minted your amulets or sacrificed junk for goblins, and it's calculated on a number of variables, including the types of ecosystem assets you hold and how long you've held them, how many of them you hold, and their associated rarities, what activities have they been involved in, along with your social media contributions. The score is dynamic and it will evolve over time, being directly influenced by your ongoing participation. This is a very powerful new way to bootstrap a network, and Aaron McDonald touches on the following reasons as to why that is. We turn the root network itself into a play and earn game. This novel approach to token distribution leverages proof of participation combined with your future points score to reward root to active community members. Futureverse collectibles are used in the challenges. This distribution is a kind of proof of real work that encourages activity that drives the network effects for the root network. The only way to get root is to participate in an activity that creates utility for the network. The root network still uses proof of stake for network security, so you get the best of proof of work style token distribution with proof of stake based network performance. The way that this has been phrased by Aaron leads me to believe there'll be little to no root tokens simply airdropped for holding an asset, as many have become accustomed to with token launches over the last few years. You're going to have to earn these in some capacity, and will likely include bridging Futureverse assets over to the root network and establishing your future pass at the bare minimum. Having a few more hoops for people to jump through should result in the token not being dumped as soon as it becomes immediately available, or at least slowing that process down over the first few weeks and months, as people slowly earn them by completing subsequent challenges. Now this news probably disappoints some longer term holders, or those who have been stacking hoping to get some upfront liquidity when the root network launches, and to a certain extent I fall into that category. However, this will further further incentivize a longer-term approach to the ecosystem and encourage more active participation. This is super important of any network and is the very definition of network effects. Users who are incentivized to hold rather than to sell and encouraged to be active users of the network should result in a more stable token price, which hopefully gathers momentum over time, rather than the typical pump and dump crash patterns we see of virtually every other token on its launch. There's several other noteworthy things in this month's Probably Nothing newsletter, so be sure to check it out if you haven't already. Next up, I wanted to talk about the amazing launch and mint for the Goblins. These guys make up the Genesis PFP collection of the Root network, and over 20,000 of them have already been minted. That may have since been retired. The summoning was a 10-day Genesis minting event, representing the Genesis collection for Goblins. These guys are all one-of-ones, leveraging the in-house dynamic object transformer DOT technology. The one-off summoning event has now closed, but if you didn't mint a Goblin, fear not, because the collection is an infinite mint and will now have several seasons during the phase known as the recurring. And each season is sure to have its own surprises to encourage more people to mint more Goblins and stay active in the ecosystem. It's also a mainstream friendly way for people to join the Futureverse with a low cost Goblin, where Goblins can be minted for just $20 or can be summoned after sacrificing a listed NFT via the junking. During the summoning, over 14,000 NFTs were junked, which are NFTs from various unloved collections. And in a funny twist, the other Goblin Town collection, which resulted in the Futureverse collection of the same name rebranding to Gods and Goblins, was revealed as a slow rug and is now eligible to be junked for Goblins with actual utility. Sometimes nature is healing, and the Gods and Goblins Twitter account and Gizmo the Junker have certainly enjoyed this unexpected twist of fate. Next up was this leak from Aaron McDonald on Twitter that we can expect the Root marketplace, which should enable liquidity and trading for Goblin amulets, to go live by the end of this month. Now, I'm not sure if this is at all related, but keep in mind that Amazon has its marketplace launching on the 24th of April, and also the MNTGE marketplace, dubbed the MNTGE Market, goes live on the 26th. MNTGE themselves have had an extremely busy month as well. First, the team featured in a mini documentary published by the Collabland team. I'll link it in the description below, and it was nice to get some behind the scenes footage on everything that's been going on with MNTGE. And then we had the MNTGE pressing event, where Sean Wotherspoon trunk holders could crack open their trunk, which one of the 4 custom garments and associated ink types they received, allowing users to mix and match inks and garments to create a brand new creation. I've got to say the experience was quite smooth and very well done. It's going to be interesting to see how the MNTGE market launches and what it means for day one pass holders. Before I continue, a quick word from our sponsors that make the show possible.
Introducing Fraz Cola, the world's premier beer-flavored beverage.
It's Fraz, delicious, highly nutritious with a top-secret recipe that's so delicious.
Nothing beats the buzz of a cool Fraz Cola. What are you waiting for?
We're getting Fraz to the NAS!
Consume at your own risk. Symptoms may include and death.
Despite the big changes to the Futureverse white paper, probably the highest profile news for the month was the introduction of Cool Cats officially into the Futureverse family. In a traditional co-venture arrangement, the Futureverse and Cool Cats have swapped some equity and also introduced members onto their boards from each ecosystem. And whether you like the IP of Cool Cats or not, it sure is encouraging to see a collection of that scale pledge its alliances to the Futureverse tech stack. As I mentioned in last week's video, you can expect the Cool Cats collections to start migrating a lot of their utility over to the Root network and Futureverse rails. I mean, it only makes sense. They are now co-owners in the Futureverse. I expect that the Fractures reveal will likely involve users having to bridge that NFT from Ethereum to reveal their new character on the Root network. And this leak from Jesse Metcalf might be a breadcrumb of what we can expect. This tweet from Ready Player Me is probably the largest Walker World leak we've seen to date. Check out the video on their Twitter page. It highlights the interoperable nature of what Walker World are building and even features a fluff. I'm pretty sure there's a great chance that they'll be using the Futureverse tech stack as well, given that the Futureverse are also a co-owner in Walker World. It's also worth noting that staking your Walker World assets is now live, and you can start earning ooze. an ecosystem currency which will unlock further rewards. You can even purchase some Seekers and Atom Car Club memberships through the Walker World staking dashboard. So if you've got some idle assets sitting in your wallet, be sure to stake them and start earning some rewards. With the launch of the Goblins Mint, we also have our first self-appointed Goblin influencer, RUGRAT. You can look RUGRAT up on Twitter, at RUGRAT42069. The one thing that the Futureverse has really dropped the ball on was a complete lack of shitposting. So hopefully RUGRAT can sort that out for us. He's off to a flyer so far. Be sure to give him a follow for the culture. I don't know about you, but he sure looks familiar to me. Finally, I wanted to talk about the team at YieldFi and what they've been building. It would seem that their first app is now becoming public, BOF, which I assume stands for Bank of the Future or Bank of the Futureverse. Or best of friends, you can decide, but they've released some details around what they're building. They're dubbing themselves as the future of finance, allowing a non-custodial way for you to deposit your crypto assets, start earning some low-risk yield, and spend in real life. And I have no doubt that they will have links to the Immersive and MasterCard partnership. Diving into the BOF slide deck, they announced themselves as a non-custodial protocol that allows users to spend USDC via MasterCard and earn interest from a variety of DeFi earn accounts simply and easily. No banks involved, no custodials, no prime broker, no company including BOF can access user funds. This very much sounds like it'll be using the Auto blockchain rails and will likely automate DeFi yield farming for you in a safe and secure way to generate some yield on your crypto assets, basically becoming the modern version of a money market. If you're not familiar with money markets, basically it provides short-term liquidity at low cost to major financial institutions, and BOF is likely going to entice users to deposit their assets into low-risk liquidity pools, which will automate your position to make sure that the nominal dollar value of your position is relatively neutral. In the meantime, picking up some yield and interest from swap fees and lending rates. It sounds complex because it is, but the best part of it all is, such is the power of composable DeFi smart contracts, it can all be audited, insured, and automated, meaning you can sleep easy at night, but put your crypto assets to work. This is exactly the type of product the industry needs. As we saw with the recent collapse of crypto banks, and then more recently traditional banks, counterparty risk is a huge problem. And that's the whole point of a blockchain. Transparent, public, distributed ledgers. Now that might still sound like a load of mumbo jumbo, but that's kind of the point of the Futureverse in general. Making things work just like magic, so you don't have to get down in the weeds of the technology. I really can't wait to see BOF launch, and I'll be signing up for the Metaverse MasterCard the moment I can. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos. Bunnies up!